Cool.
So JB, do you want to begin or?
I wasn't sure anymore. Sure.
I think we're live. Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. It's our pleasure to have this roundtable with the Aperture. I mean, some of the Aperture leaders here, Tonya and Peter in particular, but also some of them are members of the Aperture Oversight Committee, but as well as some other people from the open science crowd. And so it's a pleasure to have you all here. And we're here really to discuss how this project is going, where we're going, what are the next steps, and where we're at now, and all those things. So thanks everyone, and thanks to the OHBM to get, I mean, for the support and for having had that project really carried over a few years. So I think at that stage, Kay, you wanted to show us some slides, right? Or I'm not sure. I'm not sure was the kind of like a proposal now, but I think we could have a couple of slides. Tonya, you also have participated in creating those slides, so I think we just chime in and go over those slides, and hopefully that will sparkle the discussion, pun intended. And yeah, thanks everyone, and let's get going.
So Kay is putting up the slides. I'm not sure if Kay is on still, but hopefully she's the one. So as we're waiting for the slides to come up. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Anyway, well, JB and I have been, part of this larger and larger group that's been working since for about 5 years now on getting this going, and we're really happy to finally have a platform that will be evolving still pretty quickly to get this up. So okay, so and then in the process of the most important person that the Aperture Advisory Committee, which JB and I are heading, was to find an editor-in-chief, and Tanya is the editor-in-chief, as most of you who are probably logged on probably know, and I'll let Tanya White take it away with the slides.
Yeah. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining to get an update on where we are on Aperture. It was about a little over a year ago that JB and Peter called me up and asked if I were interested in the position, and we've come quite a way since that time, although there was a lot of preparation and a lot of work done by the AOC leading up to that time, and the AOC is and JB and Peter have been very active in this whole process. So the pillars, actually, there are 5 pillars, which you see here. And I would say these are really key. So we want high quality publications. We don't want at all to be considered a sort of predatory journal. We want it the journal of the Organization of Human Brain Mapping. And it's pretty clear there is room within the neuroimaging community for another high quality publication. And it's the thought is that we would fill also a little bit of a different niche, or at least rather than accepting only PDF sort papers, that there would be a broadening of the umbrella, so to speak, and that there would be a submission of research objects, which could be Jupyter notebooks, it could be other types of scripts, code, pipelines, educational material, or data. So that's where the diversity of published research objects, which is one of the pillars. And I know there are other publishing options that they cover all of those as well. Yeah, this is one in which the OHBM community and those others outside the OHBM community who neuroimaging can tap into. Another, since it's a not-for-profit, we are not-for-profit, we will do the best we can to keep costs low. And also it will be open access, so with an open science approach. And there's been a lot of discussions of think about MATLAB and how to integrate code that is not necessarily open source and into an open access platform. And then, as you can see, the people participating in this call, it's community driven. And we are, it's OHBM kind of from the onset, and it's been the driving force. We have support from council. Council has been very helpful. Aina Puch has been on most of our calls, weekly calls, and has been very supportive. And OHBM Council has also been quite supportive of the AOC. So we launched in October of 2020, and we've invited around 30. I don't know the exact number of people to write articles to get things going. And so some of those have been submitted. Many of them we've not yet seen, but hopefully we'll see in the near future. And we have a large group of handling editors. We have 37 handling editors. And one of the reasons why we have so much is we started off and we were a little weak on the diversity side of things related both to gender and geographic location. And so we have a large group of handling editors, and we also have what often is called an editorial board, but they will be expert review board, is what we will name them, who are the first go-to, so to speak, for reviews. So we have received 16 submissions that are in the works up until now. And as mentioned, we have a growing panel of expert reviewers. Once that's confirmed, that will also be on the website. So one of the major projects, I would say, over the last, actually since October, has been trying to get a platform. So we do have a platform now, but we want to move to a platform that is more designed for the type of publications that make it easier to submit. So we partnered with the COCO Foundation, and there's a platform called Kotahi. And the plan is that the plan was to transition around the meeting, and it's the contract has been signed, and so the plan is to is to get that up and running as soon as possible. And so we'll move from interactive, I'm spacing on the current platform, but attendee interactive. We'll switch from attendee interactive, where we are currently have a contract, and move to this open source platform for publishing. And we had our first publication that's been accepted, so we aren't rejecting everything that comes in. Okay, can we have the next slide? So I mentioned Kotahi, and it's a state-of-the-art. It's platform that's entirely open source, so the code will be available, and then we will be able to eventually host PDFs. And one of the things that we've been discussing among the AOC has been, and that's a request that we have the proceedings of the meetings from the Organization for Human Brain Mapping. So the plan is that all of the abstracts that have been submitted will be compiled, and those will be published in the proceedings from the Organization for Human Brain Mapping, along with editorials that we've asked people to write. And we've had a number of people who have graciously agreed to add commentary or an editorial from the meeting that will go into the proceedings. So there will be essentially, for those of you who have been involved in handling editors, there's certain type of handling platform that makes it easy to, for example, to automatic notifications of authors and reviewers, integration with cross-reference, and the plan is that within 3 years as well, that will have an impact factor and will be citable on PubMed and others. So as some of this is a bit I've mentioned as I've been going along, but the transition to Kotahi will be able to support publication PDFs, and then indexing with cross-ref. And I mentioned the impact factor, which we hope to have in about 3 years. The other plan is, and it's ongoing, is a partnership with NeuroLibra, but I think I'm going to leave that for JB to talk to, because he's been the spearhead behind that. So I think he could fill in what's going on with NeuroLibra.
Actually, Nikola will be even better than me for this, Tonya, but yes, we will talk about NeuroLibra for sure.
Okay, great. And then maybe maybe we can switch over now to Nikola.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. And thanks for the intro, Tanya and JB. NeuroLibra is a collaborative project. It is supported by the Canadian Open Neuroscience Platform, and quite a few of us on this call are affiliated with it. Our vision is for a preprint server that can host interactive research objects, primarily Jupyter notebooks. And what we're trying to do is get journals to go beyond the PDF. And I don't think we need much explaining why that's a good idea. You know, integrate data and code together with the text. But it does require some infrastructural support. And this is what we're trying to accomplish. With many journals accepting preprints as a legit way to do peer review, we have an obstacle of where do these interactive research objects reside, and how will we be able to eventually get them published. So the vision for NeuroLibra is to make it possible for people to submit a Jupyter notebook, make it available for reviewers. We do not provide the peer review. We only provide technical review for the content. And then hopefully journals will use this preprint server as a place where the actual peer review can take place, and eventually publish it with the stamp of approval of Aperture. So far, we're working on some infrastructural kinks, trying to get the NeuroLibra server going and go from alpha to beta version sometime this summer, which should coincide well with a couple of Aperture submissions. I know that there were already a couple of Jupyter books used for the educational courses, and we would really like to get them hosted on NeuroLibre and then eventually published in Aperture. I think it's going to be a great proof of concept for what we're trying to accomplish. Elizabeth and JB have been working closely with us on this, so I would love to hear from them if there's anything I missed or any other perspectives they can add.
Maybe I can introduce you, Elizabeth. You've been one of the key person for making this infrastructure of NeuroLibre work, and I've been very interested in those publishing aspects. And also, Elizabeth is a PhD student in my lab and has been exceptional in making all those things working, as well as conceptually thinking about the problems. So I think I don't know if you want to say something about the NeuroLibre platform, what's there, and then the link with Aperture. We'll have to come back to Aperture on this.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I think, Nikola, you summarized it so well. JB, thank you for the introduction for me. And I would love to hear your introduction for how it links in with Aperture as well. But maybe just one other point more generally is kind of keeping with Aperture's idea of moving to the Kotahi platform and kind of this Coco Foundation. I think NeuroLibre similarly is really interested in building off of community resources. So for example, it builds a lot on the Binder project, which comes out of the Jupyter community. It also builds on the Journal of Open Source Software's tech stack. And so it kind of integrates these community resources. And I think that makes it both conceptually at this high level, but also kind of at a practical level in terms of, or a philosophical level in terms of how it draws on community resources, a really natural partner for Aperture. So I'm really excited to see how that unfolds and what that will look like over the next few months.
Yeah, as Tonya was saying, publishing things that are not just PDF and that things that are reusable objects and full-fledged research objects is a critical mission for one of the pillars of Aperture, and NeuroLibre is definitely fulfilling a key role in having that server and preprint Jupyter notebook or book server aspect, such that we can review those objects. They are on NeuroLibre, they are technically sound, they are stamped by NeuroLibre, but they are working and those things. And then, Aperture can say, hey, is there good science there as well? I think that's, or is that useful for the community? Or is that very high quality as we need, and so on. So that's the relationship that is, as you described, Nikola, between. And one of the things I wanted to stress, Tonya, is that Kotahi is one of the, there's not that many traditional sort of full-fledged publishing platforms that are open source, and Kotahi is one of those platforms. So we really hope that the technical links between between NeuroLibre and Aperture and all those things can happen more easily because we are dealing with an open source code, and hopefully have less trouble with licenses and companies and hosting those things. So yeah, that was just a remark on the side of things, but I think it is in the spirit of Aperture to have an open source platform, fulfilling not only the open access aspect, but also really open at the core of it.
Let me just ask a question, in anticipation of maybe some people in the audience or whatever who might ask. There's still a very traditional drive to want to have a PDF. PDF is the unit of currency among, you can send PDFs in email. You can actually, you look them up, you download PDFs, you feel like you had a package. But now it's sort of moving to all. Would it be just a link, or could you produce a PDF if you needed to, or is it just is the trend going purely towards these interwoven links of information that are sort of packaged in some way?
Elizabeth, do you want, or Nikola, do you want to answer this?
So
I'm happy. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. Yes, please.
No, sorry. Always the Zoom. I was just going to say that I think it's a great question. And I think that it depends in part on how you're producing these objects. But for example, Jupyter Book, which I'm quite familiar with and does a lot for NeuroLibre, one of the ways in which it was developed was that you can have both these really dynamic, interactive objects that live on the web and are really web first, but you can also have PDF objects. So it's using this engine from Python called Sphinx, and so it can generate either or. And the reason it was done like that is because when we're thinking about publishing, it's also nice to be able to think about archival. And most archival services are really not yet set up to handle over the long term kind of evolving browsers and evolving libraries and those sorts of things. So having both the deeply interactive document as well as the PDF is really critical. And I think the thing that's sort of unique, and some people are exploring this in various ways, but the thing that's sort of unique about the solutions that I think the OHBM community, I hope, and certainly the NeuroLibre community is moving towards, is that this interactive object is really a first class kind of citizen. It's really what scientists are writing and engaging with. And it also compiles to a PDF rather than, I think a lot of times we usually end up with the reverse, where we have a PDF and then you try and create something afterwards to capture some of what you've done. And so having both, but really centering the web first object early on is I think pretty powerful.
This is a key point that Elizabeth is making, that we want to encourage people to actually make this notebook as they're doing their research, so that in the end, they get to pick how they present it. If the journal is interactive object compatible, go ahead, give us the whole data plus code plus text. But otherwise, leave it there as a document of all the work, but then pick the parts that are compatible with the PDF and submit them wherever you want, or print them out if you want. So I think it will require a culture change, but we see other journals moving in that direction. For example, there's eLife with their ERA initiative. These are executable research articles, and they're working closely with a startup called Stencila that tries to make this a habit, work in your notebook, then eventually publish it. We know it's going to take a while to get there because currently we go from the PDF to everything else. But if we can convince a couple of people to deliver high impact, prestigious kinds of interactive research objects, I think it's going to pave the way for everybody else.
It's such an interesting sort of like a direction, and also like a having some impact on reproducibility aspect, of course, because the PDF is great and it's very stable and can be archived for a long time. It's not very reproducible research. It's hard to but can I ask a question to Tonya maybe, and so like with those new research subjects that we are trying to sort of have a full-fledged publication, do you envisage difficulties in reviewing those things? Like what do you think? How is that reviewing aspect is going to happen? Because I think the reviewers are kind of accustomed to the traditional PDF. They know how to read a PDF and review it, right? Do you think what are the challenges ahead for those new type of objects that are more interesting, but maybe more new?
So we did have of our 37 handling editors, we did ask them which of them would be interested in a comfortable handling code, scripts, codes, and that. And I would say about a third of them said that yes, they would be comfortable. So they go into a different category, which is actually another reason why we have so many. We've had discussions on the level of review that is necessary. Personally, I think the code should be tested. So it's going to take more time to review these research objects and more commitment. And I've actually wondered if similar to the hackathon, you could actually get a team of reviewers all working together. So rather than everyone reviewing it independently, maybe having the reviewers actually work together, 2 or 3 reviewers that would normally review a paper independently, in order to to have them, interact, and perhaps different reviewers might have different expertise. But I will say the papers thus far have been primarily the traditional articles that we've had, the traditional PDF. So although some have been reports of code, but nothing really, with a Jupyter notebook or Markdown or one of those approaches.
Maybe it will happen soon, Tonya. We don't know.
Yeah,
I
and it's
hope
kind of
so.
nice. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice having the option to have this. So, for some enterprising researchers to just give it a try and push the system and see what happens, and that might start something. I worry a little bit about, I mean, there's also more, nuts and bolts logistics of, let's say you have the opportunity of this is having potentially living documents where, especially like with code or Jupyter notebooks or whatever, you might want to update them over time. It seems like there has to be some sort of standard of management of timestamps and history and things like that as well. And you could even imagine maybe updating articles too, in some sense, but that might be a little bit more fixed. I mean, these are all things that are a little bit open, obviously. That's what's fun about this journal.
We do have a question from Pradeep on Pradeep is worried that talking about high quality is maybe not the right thing for Aperture. I mean, like and impact and so on. Can I just put that question to the to the roundtable and what people think about that potential problem of a selectiveness aspect?
Well, I mean, like, at least for me, I mean, I know where Pradeep is coming from. I mean, it seems like it's one metric in sort of like this multi-dimensional space, but you do want to, have high quality stuff and you do want to have it have high impact. I mean, that's our, that's kind of a goal, but you don't want to dwell on it. You don't want to make it the only factor. So
there have been papers that I've submitted that come back and they say this isn't novel enough, and it's rejected because of lack of novelty. It might be high quality, but it's just not novel. And that's something I don't want to see in Aperture. When I think of quality, it doesn't have to do, if you're replicating, that's not novel, and yet it's really crucial and important to have. The opposite of high quality would be low quality. And so when we say high quality, that I do agree that there's a gray area in that, because I am also a handling editor for at the JCAP, the Journal of American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and we're turning away papers that we think are high quality just because there's actually 7 publications a month. It's a paper journal. So high quality really means, are the methods done correctly? Is the sample size good? Is there enough information for people to replicate? I mean, high quality would be synonymous, I think, with the Cobitus document. That's the hope.
Any thought on this? I don't know, Elizabeth, Nikola, what's your gut reaction to how selective should be Aperture, basically? How
I mean, I'm not sure what you would say, Nikola. I think for me, one thing that is sort of interesting is, when you're integrating all these aspects, going back to how do you review these, including them in a way that's accessible and usable is an exceedingly high bar. So I think that, in some ways it's almost a different set of challenges of like, what is quality code in that, like, is the code readable? Is the code runnable? To me, I'd like to see a conversation around that very much. But I agree that focusing the conversation around traditional ideas like novelty is not as exciting personally, and certainly not as maybe useful for this new context.
But I do believe there's space for metrics. I mean, some metrics need to be collected. I mean, the most depressing metrics is if you actually take a look at visits to abstracts and then downloads of papers for any journal. So let's not go to citations, let's go for reads. That not to that paper being cited. And then if it's cited, then you kind of give the journal impact factor by definition. So I don't think we should be running away from the impact factor. I don't know if it would be any, productive decision to say we will just drop our impact factor even if we get it, but maybe not go for it by any cost. I think, it's more, let's make sure that people are excited by what we publish, read it. Then we have some metrics about how many times the code has been executed or how many times people have liked the article, and that could serve as a good proxy for how high quality our work is. Impact factor will come out of it regardless. So I think it's a philosophical question. Are we chasing the impact factor, or is the impact factor chasing us? I hope it's the second thing.
Yeah, I agree with your way of framing that, because a lot of times, right, you can imagine, I mean, certainly journals try to do this. They try to, game the system potentially to to boost up their impact factor. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can, if you're chasing something, you can, various things. But no, I mean, our goal is to be useful and highly disseminated and have an impact in that way. And so maybe there should be another metric of usage in some sense, rather than citations. That's
reusability metric, or a fair metric. I mean, you could, like a fair reusability aspect in it.
It's hard to track that, but these are things to think about.
And I was really like, I really like the way, Tonya, you said that, the replication are actually not novel by essence, but I would also say that there are few replications. Those replication papers are actually kind of novel these days. they're in some sense, and not maybe not the content, but I think they are so important as well. And I do believe that that is high quality. When you can replicate a result that is a result of high quality.
The other important point I think I want to add is that negative studies are also very important. If they're done correctly, I think they should also have a power analysis to show what kind of effect you could have had you the sample size. And those are papers I'd like to see. And I would also like to move forward with the AOC to think about registered reports and moving towards having more options for registered reports.
And so far, Tonya, you've taken a very wide, like open aspect of what kind of things can be published, right? As long as those things are useful, high quality, like for the community. Like I'm thinking with the training and educational material as well, that are possibly some things that should be reviewed, should be of high quality, and take a lot of effort to create, and are extremely useful for the community. So those things are also
So Pradeep, I'm looking at the feed on Sparkle, and he also asked, isn't producing good valid papers good enough function for Aperture? And I think that's certainly good, but we want some, I mean, obviously everything that is trying to spread the word that it's good, has to have some sort of objective metrics as opposed to just word of mouth. So my feeling is that we have to come up with, obviously better metrics than impact factor, but that's a discussion to be had.
and probably very I mean variable metrics. I think Nikola, you said something like you know, it's basically if there's one metric, that's you know how you game things. You know, if you have like a 5 or 10 metrics, it's becoming impossible to like you know. So I think I mean I don't I'm not. Obviously, I mean, I don't think anyone is a fan of metrics, but they can be useful, but they should span different dimensions probably.
Yeah, I mean, Pradeep is, you know, obviously maybe having open peer review reports or things like that might let people figure out that it's high quality work. You know, it's really hard to, you know, I think it's hard not to try to come up with some sort of objective metrics with, unless otherwise you sort of fall in the trap of just hoping that people get a sense. I mean, journals do get reputations, and that will happen with Aperture. It'll be hopefully good and progressive. And yeah, so another person, Niall Duncan, mentioned that I mean, the word impact is potentially a poison word in some sense, because it has sort of a loaded meaning that is maybe different than true impact. So
yeah, no, absolutely. We know the flaws of the impact factor for sure, and probably want to stay away from it. But yeah.
So I will add the part of this comes from the whole peer review process. So this will be sent out to the community to review and come back with feedback that'll be processed through the community essentially, or reviewers in the community. It is possible that that it happens there's reviewers who just don't like it, and it's actually happens to be a good quality piece. And then we have the handling editors who are also making their recommendations, which I will I'll look through everything, but certainly I'll think very strongly of what the handling editors are saying when I look through that. And so this is in the scope of this whole peer review process, and whether that is the, you know, a better route. I mean, if there possibly are different routes that could be done. I mean,
yeah, the whole, sorry, Elizabeth, did you want to say something or no? No, okay. No, I was thinking of the whole debate on should the review be open or not, should the name of the reviewers be open or not, and so on. It has like ignited a lot of I would say strong debates between folks with different, very strong opinions. So what's the, I mean, maybe you can tell us a bit what you're thinking about that, and what is the Aperture sort of like, you know, direction in this debate, or like should we have actually absolutely open reviews or not, or should we have the names of or anonymous authors, or all those aspects, which are, you know, always tricky. So I don't know if you wanted to comment, or anyone on the panel, like any thought on this aspect.
I can certainly start, and other people who are involved in the AOC can also comment, because we did have a lot of discussion on this, and certainly I think overall the agreement was having it completely open and transparent was the best. However, there could be situations, for example, where a reviewer is junior and they're reviewing a paper of someone, and they're concerned about being a junior person and stating comments that it may not be helpful for them. And so in essence, what we're doing is we're encouraging people to be transparent, but they decide essentially whether they want their name open or not. So we're not mandating it to be open.
And I feel there is a big distinction between having signed reviews and having public reviews. And for me, public reviews are key. I want to see what the reviewer said. Whether I want to know who said it, well, the handling editors and the editor-in-chief should, be watching of who gives good reviews or who doesn't. For me, it's really knowing that the paper has gotten the proper treatment and then seeing whether the reviews are fair. So that for me would be a priority. And then if people want to sign, sure. And for me, the wish list or the ideal scenario would be it's a smorgasbord of options. So, author chooses single blind or double blind, whether they're going to share data or code or both, how they want the review to be handled. And I know that this is difficult to accomplish, especially this early in the journal, but that's what's lacking at the moment. We have this kind of one-size-fits-all approach for how to handle papers, and giving more freedom for the authors and giving more freedom to the reviewers, and then matching them so that everybody's happy with how they've been handled is the ideal scenario. That's what I would like to see journals evolve towards.
Yeah, I think the only thing I worry about a little bit with either not, I mean, I totally agree. I agree with having things as transparent as possible, completely. That said, I'm trying to look at once again, the possible dynamics it introduces, and that is, usually if a reviewer, either if they're not anonymous, if the author knows who they are, or they might pull their punches a little bit more. I mean, they might try to be nice and a little bit more accepting of everything. Certainly if it's public also, even if it's anonymous and public, you can imagine writing differently. And I don't know if that's better or worse. It could be better.
But the flip side is writing more responsibly also. Because, when it's anonymous and when it's hidden, you end up with some pretty bad reviews.
That's true. That's true. And for the bulk of the reviews, they would improve, I think. Sometimes though, it could also cause the other, people might, it's interesting dynamics. I'd have to think about that more, but I think overall being transparent is better. So.
And giving the summaries like eLife does it is a good middle ground. Maybe not every single word of the review, but tell us what the reviewers thought. I'm dying to know, really. And I'm dying to publish my own reviews of papers, and I'm not allowed. So I think that goes a long way. Doesn't have to be word by word, doesn't have to be signed, but I need to see the comments. People love reading comments on Facebook. Why not on papers? That's what I always draw.
Yeah, the other dynamic that is tricky is that I totally agree with you there. And but like with narrow image, for instance, usually, I mean, we put a lot of weight in the editors were the experts, and the editors could take a review and say, this review is kind of garbage. I'm still going to accept the paper because I don't agree with this review. And now there's also a dynamic of if it's public and who the editor is, they're like, well, they're going to be more hands off and say, well, this is the way it is. Whereas, and there might be something lost there potentially, because there is a real curation and expertise that comes with experienced editors. That they might not feel as free to exercise that. These are just things that may or may not be significant, but I'm just thinking of them.
Elizabeth, you wanted to say something for right?
No, I just wanted to ask, I definitely appreciate the conversation around the dynamics of like signed or unsigned reviews and the openness thereof. But I caught on something you were saying, Nikola, which I think is really interesting. And I'm wondering if Aperture is actually pushing for this right now, which is fully double blind reviews. So the authors are anonymized as well. Is this something that's being developed or already in the works?
That's a great question. Currently it's not, but I think what you might be getting at is from the standpoint of diversity and inclusivity. If you're not listing certain names, or if you know that a paper comes from certain labs, then it could be handled differently based on reputation or that. The thought is that you may not know the names of the people, but usually from the paper, it's a small world. You can kind of figure out. It's hard to be really blinded to the paper if you're reviewing a paper in your area, and you know how they cite. But I think there is something to be said if it could be completely blinded, at least in the initial round or until it's all published. Obviously, it's if it's published, it's all open. For that reason, for diversity, because we do have some implicit bias and perhaps some, unfortunately, explicit biases, and you want those removed. But currently, we're not. But I'm happy to hear, people give feedback and hear people's thoughts about how the decisions that we are making.
Actually, that turns into like I had a bit of a question for the group as well, which is, we talked about if we review the 5 pillars of Aperture, we talked quite a bit on, the quality aspect, the openness with the review and all those things. I was wondering if you listening to you, Tonya, on how the feedback aspect, it should be community driven, and I was wondering what are the mechanisms that you think would be best for getting that community driven aspect. In a sense, it is community driven because it's an OHBM, which is a society. The OHBM council is elected, so to me that fulfills some of those aspects. But the dialogue with the community will be critical for the success, probably. So any thought on how that can happen and what are the best ways?
That's a good question. Something that we've not talked about, and I wonder just off the top of my head. Eventually, we would like to interact with other committees like the ComCom committee and Diversity Inclusivity Committee, and then there's the Aperture Oversight Committee. I wonder if there would be some, for example, through the ComCom committee, if there's I don't know, certain communications that could be filtered back into Aperture, or through having people can email me as well. But maybe some way. I think we should discuss this at our meetings. You have any thoughts? Any of the people in the?
No, I think Nikola is a great person too. Like, Nikola, you've been the chair of the ComCon for some times at least, and you've been very heavily involved in the community communication aspect.
So on one hand, yes, that's true. On the other, I'm past chair of the committee, and Elizabeth is actually incoming as blog chair. So I would actually love to hear Elizabeth's opinion. I'm happy to also pitch in, but she's the future of ComCom.
Well, 1 year delayed. I'm really excited. Ilona Lip will be taking over as chair this year, so it's looking very promising.
Ilona is taking over as chair of the committee, and you as block team captain.
It's true.
And you're as block team captain.
But I do know, I think that, something Ilona and I and Nikola and the past chair Nils have all talked about is that I think ComCom is in a really good position to try and promote communication within OHBM more broadly and kind of bring transparency to a lot of the structure and the ongoing work that's happening all year round. So I think ComCom would be in a great position to both kind of have a public facing place where members could come and give feedback, but also to kind of relay updates from Aperture to the community somewhat regularly. Not just, I think these roundtables are hugely useful and the big announcements are really lovely, but also kind of the step-by-step. I think having that kind of sense gives people a place to really kind of step in themselves and give feedback and see how things are going. So I'm really hopeful that ComCom, and I'm thinking that ComCom will start to take more and more in that role over the next months. And I think that would be really lovely to have that interaction with Aperture as well.
When I agreed to run communications as chair, I said, only if we recognize that publishing is also science communication. And I think we've accomplished that with Aperture. I mean, The link is tight. There's actually quite a lot of interesting things that are put on the OHBM blog that I think would make for good Aperture publications, including our on-demand tutorials. That's something that Ilona Lip has taken charge of since she joined the committee, and now she's going to be hopefully pushing on integration with Aperture. So it's, it's a very obvious synergy. And sure, we could always help spread the word, but in the end, Aperture is just an extended arm of ComCom, if you ask me.
That's one way of seeing it. Yeah, that sounds good. Definitely, when you're writing or when you're like publishing something, you're communicating it. So I agree with that. Cool. Yeah, and maybe I don't know if people would be interested, like maybe just a word on the low cost of aspect, making sure that is not impacting too much the finance of a lab to publish, which maybe like at with the flurry of open journals that are actually you have to pay quite a substantive amount to actually publish. I think maybe Aperture has its word to say in that direction as well. And yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to comment on this. Maybe not. But
Well,
what I would like to say is that making sure
yeah.
that OHBM has actually chimed in financially to support the project, and there are some costs that we need to cover. Like we have a fantastic manager with Kay, and I think that's someone that takes it's a full-time person, and I think I don't think the project would be going that well if without that person without Kay. So I just want to just mention that.
Yeah, I have to also second that. Kay, we forgot to mention her, is that she's been doing an incredible amount of work, and it's been very valuable. Yeah, completely valuable to what we're doing here. So yeah, we need.
I agree with that. As Cameron Craddock mentioned when I was talking to him about being a handling editor, he said, you're like building the airplane as it's flying. And without Kay, we wouldn't have been off the ground. And so the cost, it's actually low cost. It's 800 for a membership and 1,000 for a non-member submission to Aperture currently. And we're nonprofit, so we're not currently obviously not covering our costs, but hopefully we eventually will be. And the other, so it's, you can, even if you're a non-member, you can submit, for most publication fees are upwards of 2,500, 3,000. I don't know what they are for Nature, but
yeah, so it's definitely less than the other more traditional journals. I think that's worth noticing and saying, hey, we're not doing that for having like a successful company. We're doing that to having successful community, which is a big difference, I think.
And I think we have somewhat of a rough plan to make exceptions for certain countries or things like that as well, to make things as easy as possible.
Right. JB, I wonder if you could just give a brief overview of the history of Aperture for anyone on the call who's...
It's going to be hard to be brief. It's been going on for so long. Yeah, sure. So I think that idea was dates from probably even more than 5 years ago, but roughly 5 years ago. And it started with this committee at OHBM, which was called the topic, the OHBM Publishing Initiative Committee or something like that. And with a bunch of people and really many people actually have contributed a lot. And I think at some stage we thought when OHBM turned into a society, it was kind of natural to think, okay, a society often as a journal, I said about journal, but we were always thinking, okay, that should be more than a journal. That should be like publishing things. And journal is often a bit associated with the PDF aspect and the article aspect, but we wanted something which was a bit, larger than that, and that led to the diversity of research objects and reusability aspect of our research object. Yeah. So the history, yeah, it's been so long, but really, it really started. I would say the key start, Tonya, is when you became the editor-in-chief. That is the key date of Aperture, because this is when things really got real. So that to me is definitely the date that we should remember. And all the preparation and the discussion, I think could have gone quicker and things like that. But it sometimes things matter, and it depends on at some stage who is on console for what, and it's all it takes some time to sometimes mature a project, and I definitely was was trying my best, and not and sometimes you go in a tangent and you go back and then so on. Yeah, but I think eventually, I mean, I'm so glad that things have panned out this way. It's really rewarding.
Moving. I would say it started much longer before, and a lot of the groundwork was set, but it did become real because we had to set dates, timelines to when do we accept our first submissions, who do we invite to a number of things that really had to happen once things started, and then the whole Kotahi discussions.
Yeah, no, it's actually interesting. It's worth mentioning that, we were talking with, I guess we have 3 minutes left, but we were talking with Adam even long before Kotahi. And at some point we just had to get it going right away. And that's why Attendee Interactive was so useful to get it started. And so that, it was a platform that they said, we can do this, but we can't do all these other things that you want. And at least that got us started. And now we're hoping that now that we're more ready with Kotahi, then we can expand further.
It was definitely the right decision, Peter, for sure. It's and maybe Tonya, I think to me this project is really relying so much on the people. So the editors, yourself, I think if that's going to be a high quality, and it's because the people on the project are good scientists and dedicated and motivated people. I think that's I just want to say that this is really this community is coming together to produce something that is useful for science, which I think is it's awesome.
I agree. I think it'd be great if you're interested, go ahead and for people to look at the names of the Aperture Oversight Committee who's playing a role in that. The people on the handling editors, that's up on the web. You can look through and read a little bit about them, and hopefully relatively soon the expert review board will also be published.
And I guess it's probably maybe like a call to get involved in some ways, and with the communication, with I just wanted to ask you, Tonya, where are we? I mean, do you think that we're getting enough submission? We're getting enough good submission? What's your feeling now for the?
I've been happy with the submissions thus far. The quality, what's been submitted. It would be great to have more submissions. And what I was planning, since there's been discussions, and it's gone to council, and I don't actually quite know if it's been approved or not. But that we would be Aperture Neuro, or we remain Aperture. But in any case, since my inbox is always full of people asking for journal articles to be submitted, will you submit here, will you submit there? I wanted to try something a bit different, which would be a kind of a word of mouth approach that we talk to our colleagues, and if you have a paper that's just been rejected from HBM or Neuroimage or MRM or a number of the other journals, then think Aperture. So that's kind of a word of mouth campaign that we can among the OHBM group to have people have Aperture or Aperture Neuro on people's minds. We, after all, do study the brain.
And that's probably going to come naturally when repetition is high. I think that's the thing. Yeah. It's, I don't know.
So
it's 22. Is there like an official end time for the roundtable, or how's the timing going?
I think we're going for an hour. Kay, are you still on?
Yeah, Kay's on. I think our time is up. Bob AV said our time is up. So
okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. And if you have any questions, email me.
Yes.
And
Peter or myself or Nikola or others.
And when is the official handing of the baton from you, JB, to you, Peter? We didn't talk about that, but
it's actually tonight. It's a good time.
Okay, I'll take it. It's
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Peter, for the work.
All right.
bye, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
See you later.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you.